They've got us muted unless we can't even unmute ourselves unless they want us.
We can hear you. You are unmuted, whoever's talking. No.
Phone bomb by people because it's a public meeting. And you're anonymous. You call in practically, unless you've got an audio pin and they know that it's you and therefore it's your pin.
Whoever is talking on the phone right now, we can hear you, so you might want to mute your phone.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Little Roadways Committee meeting. First of all, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
to the
States
Republic
of
for which
America,
it stands,
to the
one nation,
one
under God,
nation, under God,
liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We're taking attendance in the chat screen, but do we have anyone who has signed up for public comment?
No, I have not seen anyone submit for public comment. Let me check the chat. Nope, nothing in the chat.
Hey, y'all, this is Cal Hardy. I'm by phone right now. I'm logging into my computer right now, but I am here. I am present. I'm not able to confirm in the chat. Just FYI.
All right, no problem, Cal. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment, and then we'll have the approval of the minutes from October 28th. Any comments or questions about that? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to approve.
This is Karen Cross, so moved.
Thank you, Karen. Do we have a second?
This is Roger. I second that.
Thanks, Roger. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. All right, thank you. So we have a few discussion items. As you may know, because of using the virtual format, the state of Florida has changed how they do these meetings. Now meetings have to be held in person. At least there has to be an in-person quorum. So we'll have discussion items and new business, old business. I wanted to note that around probably 9:45, 9:50, I will be logging off for my own my organization's meeting at 10 o'clock. So David Hay he'll drive the car the rest of the way after that as our vice chair. And this is my last meeting as chair, and I wanted to thank everyone for all their participation, for going through this, for sitting at your dining room table or seeing my dining room table the last several months. This issue is not something I necessarily grew up being involved with. It's something I adopted as I got older. And the thing that really gets me about this committee is the talent of everyone involved. And the one thing that I want to leave you with is the first meeting that I chaired, which was last December. There was a project on there about improving the sidewalks and pedestrian access on Van Dyke Road near the Suncoast Parkway and near the neighborhood where I grew up in Van Dyke Farms. That issue is actually the reason why I got involved in politics and policy, because in 2008, my mom yelled at the school board or school board members and asked them to explain why my sister's bus stop was going to be at what is still a pretty dangerous intersection. So it only took 12 years for that project to get going, but sometimes progress is slow, but progress always moves forward. And so I want to thank all of you for participating. We have some things coming up on discussion that have been a long time coming, and many of you on this call have been working at this far longer than I have, and will be working on this far longer than anyone else will do. And I want to thank you so much. Your expertise and your insights and your passion for this are the reason why we're actually making improvements in this community. So thank you so much. So we'll go into discussion items now. So we'll go to our, Lisa, do you have a comment?
Well, I'm noticing that you're going to be leaving and you have a item under old and new business. Since you were discussing about your chair, you had some proposed ideas and observations that we're going to discuss later. So maybe you can make your case now. We can table the discussion until later and I'll let you know how it turned out, or we could just change the agenda since it's a virtual workshop.
Okay, well, yes. Well, I guess if that's all right for everybody, I'll just briefly mention item B on the old business and new business. One of the comments, sort of my exit interview, so to speak, or exit email, talking to Beth Alden, our executive director, and Lisa Silva, I made a comment that I think one of the things that is missing in general when we talk a lot about transportation projects is children. And Emily Hinsdale is on our committee, and she's done a great job representing, school, kids, school-age children and their safety needs. But her position is not actually a school-based position. So one of the suggestions I made is that that be made a permanent school-based position, and that in the position of it's not at-risk populations, but sort of populations of need be converted to seniors and retirees and older folks and someone who is maybe specializes in that community. So maintaining a schools position, but also adding in that next part, because there are a lot of areas of Tampa where we know older folks are the primary pedestrian users. And then the other comment I made was I think, I've been chair, and before me, Trent Green. So that's been my experience with the committee. But this committee and the Transportation Disadvantage Committee, those are the only two committees where an MPO member has to be the chair of the subcommittees. And so my comment was that why not make it a member of the committee? So I don't know if that's going to change going forward, but I also made that comment in saying that I would not be chair next term around. I wouldn't offer myself as chair at all. So we'll see where that goes from there. But as I mentioned, there's so much talent and effort and expertise on this committee that there's a lot of people who could chair this committee. So I just want to thank you again, and we'll see where we go from there. But I think this is the most important subcommittee because of the expertise that we have going forward.
And with your permission, we'll probably get into the discussion of all those ideas later and jump into the presentations, but I did want to allow you to make your case of why we're discussing it.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for that. So so let's go back then to the top of the discussion items, and thanks, Lisa, for giving me that time at the top there. So Plant City Transit Plan. Speaking of things a long time coming, we have Sarah McKinley to present. Sarah, if you want to go ahead.
I just shared it, gave her presenter mode, so just give her a minute to load it.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
I cannot. All right, 1 second.
Can't fix that. I see the title slide, so.
Okay, there it goes. All right, good morning, Sarah McKinley, MPO staff. This morning I'm gonna go through the Plant City Transit Study. I was not the project manager of this. Vishaka Shivaraman and our staff was. She's at Plant City this morning presenting to their planning board. All right, so as far as the study goes, and a little bit of background, this map shows the study area. You can see Plant City is completely encased within that area. It goes as far south as State Road 60 up to the northern boundaries north of Knights Griffin to the Polk County line to the east, and then Branch Forbes Road to the west. Plant City is one of the fastest growing areas of Hillsborough County. Currently, there are about 40,000 residents within the area. We also looked at some of the major corridors within the area, including Park Road, Collins, Alexander Street, and Reynolds and Baker. All right, as far
Sarah?
as
Sarah,
yep.
I was just alerted that Vishaka got done early and she's on. Would you like her to take over, or do you just want to continue?
I guess whichever.
Well, I guess you're already, it might be hard to make her presenter and take all that stuff. So I'll just have her there for questions and stuff. So just now you know she's there for a resource.
All right. So as far as the study purpose and outcomes, the initial phase was to explore what was in the area, looking at the possibility for transit circulators within Plant City, as well as future express routes connecting Plant City to Tampa and Lakeland. We also evaluated alternatives, looking at cost, potential ridership, and other performance measures, including proximity to communities of concern. We identified areas to serve for the future projected growth, and then came up with a set of final recommendations of transit alternatives. As far as the project schedule goes, the schedule was extended because of COVID-19. We were hoping to wrap this up mid to late summer, but as you see, we're now in the part where we're wrapping this up and taking it to our committees and board. We did have 3 rounds of public outreach, including 2 stakeholder focus groups, the second of which had a large survey outreach portion where we received about 120 responses, and then a final virtual public open house. As far as the previous transit service, there was the Strawberry Connector that focused mainly on sort of circulator routes within the sort of core of Plant City. You can see there in the middle, there's like the little pink route, the blue routes, and the green routes. Those focused on circulation within Plant City. Those were services that were provided initially by HART from 2001 to 2005, and then extended through service grants by Plant City from 2005 to 2008. The highest ridership was in 2006 and 7 fiscal year with about 47,000 riders. There was also the 28X, the express route that went to downtown Tampa. There was 2 round trips in the morning, 1 later trip in the day, and operated between 2010 and 2017 with a peak ridership of about just over 14,000. As far as the commuting patterns for this area, it is largely single drivers commuting. 84% of drivers commute alone, with the median travel time of 23.6 minutes, and 18% of those residents travel less than 10 minutes to work. So it is sort of a large bedroom community with most of the workers traveling outside the area. Only 1.5% of the households in Plant City have no vehicle. And this map sort of depicts the darker the blue, the more house or cars per household, and then those lighter blue areas are the 0 car households for the most part. And this really aligns with the community concern maps that we have as well. We also looked at the Sunshine Line. This is the paratransit offered by the county, and looked at sort of the top destinations and those trip types: adult care, community centers, rehabilitation, medical, and then other grocery shopping. Those were the sort of top type destinations within the area. And this map depicts where each of those are. As you can see, it's really focused on that sort of north-south core in the center of Plant City. As far as our outreach efforts go, like I mentioned, we had 3 rounds of outreach. The first stakeholder meeting was held in February. We had invited a set group of stakeholders, as well as opened it up to the public. We had about 35 people there, which is pretty good for an initial stakeholder group. Our second stakeholder group we had in May of 2020. This ended up being a virtual stakeholder group where we were able to interact with those participating online, as well as provided a survey as part of that. So the focus group virtual meeting sort of mimicked the survey, and then the survey was distributed throughout the area. Like I said, this was a large effort, and we received about 120 responses from this survey. Our final open house was a virtual public meeting. There is flyers that were distributed throughout various locations in Plant City. There was a live presentation on August 26th, and then we kept the workshop alive, so basically recorded. And then you'll see here to the right, sort of the template that was used, or the workshop as it was. There was tabs that each of the participants could go through and make comments. As far as the alternatives go, sort of what we heard was important was sort of implementing useful and reliable service. So making sure that we're serving those community concerns and people with disability, as well as transit to help with development downtown. And then making those major connections to downtown Tampa and then Lakeland. All right, as far as the circulator routes that we looked at, the assumptions that we came were about 600,000 capital for new buses. Paratransit costs are an additional 12% of operating costs. So once you add any new fixed service, that does trigger the need for paratransit along those routes, and then operates from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. All right, as far as the circulator routes, there was really 2 scenarios that were looked at. Option A was 1 bus every 60 minutes, connecting west to the Strawberry Festival grounds, and then through downtown and south to the Walmart. And then option B sort of mimicked that, but separated it into 2 circulators with a little bit more of an expansive route, still again connecting Strawberry Festival with the Walmart and a little further east of downtown. This is a comparison of sort of the characteristics of those routes. As you see, the option A ranges from 600,000 to 650,000, with option B running at about 1.12 million to 1.22 million. And then again, the paratransit is nearly double those costs as well. Option B does require the 2 vehicles, which is why it is about double the cost. However, option B does expand to a little over 8,000 more people as potential riders for the service. As far as the jobs within the quarter mile, option B is a little less than double of the jobs within the half mile too. And then looking at within half mile of poverty, minority, seniors, and households with no vehicle, they're sort of about even on each of these. Option C was looking at an on-demand service. This is similar to the downtowner that we have in downtown Tampa. This was something that the community did think was interesting. They weren't sure if it would work immediately downtown within Lakeland. We did look at the case study of the downtowner, where it's approximately 1.6 million per year, operating 6 vehicles. There is a funding grant that is a 50% local match. There's about 14,000 passengers per month, with the average cost of $5.09 per passenger. As far as our express services that we looked at, again, the assumption 600,000 capital costs for each new bus. Each route would require 2 buses and would operate Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then Saturday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. All right, these are the routes that were looked at. The first one is the 28X. This was the previous service that went from the Nonasassa Road at the Mount Zion Baptist Church along I-4, hit the Mango Walmart, and then traveled south on 75 and took the toll into downtown. So it's largely limited stops along the way. There is also the Route 38, which is an existing service that runs between the Mango Walmart to the Net Park Transit Center. And then looking at an extension of this route that would continue along MLK to the Plant City McCall Park. The third option was the Tampa to Plant City via I-4. Again, it would start at the McCall Park in Plant City, go to Net Park, and then travel along to downtown Tampa. The fourth option in red there is the Tampa to Mango to Plant City. Again, starting at McCall Park, stopping at the Mango Walmart, also hitting Net Park, and then again to downtown Tampa. And then the fifth option, or I guess sixth option there, is the Tampa to Plant City via MLK. This is the most direct route with a stop between McCall Park and downtown Tampa, with the possibility for stops along the way. Right, this is a similar comparison that we saw for the other circulator slides. The costs are pretty similar for each of them, since they are operating with the same amount of buses. The cost per day, again, pretty similar among each of the options. The first 2 options, you see the 28X and the I-4 would run on 45-minute frequencies, while the rest run on 60-minute frequencies with slightly similar travel times. As far as the people and jobs within half a mile, as you can see, the 28X, because it does offer the most stops along the way, has the potential for the most ridership, with the I-4 and MLK as similar. The Route 38 extension, because it is just that small part that was calculated, looks to be lower than the rest. And each of these, if you're looking at the percentages within the communities of concern, each of these perform pretty similar as well. Our final alternative that we looked at was the connection to the Amazon distribution center and continuing on to Lakeland. This was something that the community felt was very important to look at, as well as we included bulk transit within the discussion, and they were included in each of the stakeholder meetings as well. The operating cost for this would be about around $500,000 annually. Again, frequency about 1 bus every hour with about 25-minute travel time. There's about 5,000 people within the area to be served, and 8,400 jobs within the area. All right. As far as the lessons learned, this opens the opportunities for jobs, tourism, and economic growth. Also, providing reliable service and coverage are challenges the public perception about transit. All the commuters drove to work, and majority saw that transit is a desirable option, and like the idea of a transit plaza. There's a need for easy access to transit stops, making it comfortable, shorter waiting times, better frequencies. Service development pattern could support transit, but need more density to support the frequent service, and look at some policy decisions along with that. The most frequent trips within Plant City would be sort of that north-south corridor that I mentioned, looking at shopping along Redmond Plaza, the medical appointments, and also hospital and work trips. And for Express Route, the most desired destination was downtown Tampa, with a connection to Tampa International Airport, as well as Brandon and USF areas. And then Lakeland is a desired destination as well. So with that, I'll take any questions. And now that Vishaka's on, she can, I guess I'll direct those to her.
Thank you, Sarah. Do you have any questions or comments about the presentation?
No, see any in the chat. So if this was a real meeting and we were meeting in person, this would be an action item. So we're trying to get a sense of if Livable Roadways has any concerns. I will document those and communicate them in our chair report. But if there's support for it, then, you know, some discussion and dialogue about that would be awesome as well.
Yeah, and this is going to the MPO board for, I guess, approval of the report itself. So if you have any comments regarding that, this would be the time to make those.
I had one question. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's my understanding that there's a hospital that's moving in Plant City to another location. They're building a new campus. Was that part of this whole plan, looking at that site as well, or was it just existing conditions right now? Because I think it will be a couple of years until it's built.
Vishaka, do you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
Vishaka, you're a panelist, so you should be able to unmute yourself, but we're not hearing you if you're talking.
I'll just go ahead and add, as part of that first stakeholder meeting, we sort of had 3 scenarios that we looked at. So it was like 3 different tables, and we had the groups move from one to the other. And we had people that had knowledge within the area, that were from the area, that worked within the area and all that. And one of the topics was looking at emerging areas. So we looked at emerging areas, we looked at current conditions, and then we looked at communities to be served as well. And so off the top of my head, that particular site, I'm not sure if it was a discussion. We do have it, all the maps saved, and there is a summary of that analysis. So I can't say off the top of my head if that specific site was talked about, but there was a lot of discussion, and Mark was included on that. So I'm pretty sure he would have mentioned something with that.
Thanks, Sarah.
David. Hey, David, this is Vishaka.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, actually, I did discuss with Mark Hudson about it. The proposed location is off exit 22 near East Sam Ellen Road and North Park Road. But as far as I understand, like Sarah said, this did not come up at the time when we were discussing the initial plans. And sorry if I'm repeating the same thing. I had a little bit of internet issues. But Mark said that it is only repurposed for some medical use and other stuff, but that would have to be explored further because as of now, it's just a plan. So the details are not available as to what it would include.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Marina, we have a question submitted by one of our audience members, Abigail Flores, under the questions. So I'll read it out so Vishaka can respond. It says, what are the destinations of Plant City residents outside of the city, ? And then also, what other city region are they traveling to?
Yes, Lisa, thank you for the question. This is Vishaka. We did have it in the map. I don't know if this question was asked before that. Some of the preferred destinations, Sarah did mention that in Tampa, it is the downtown Tampa itself, followed by Airport, USF, and Brandon. It's one of the okay. And that's what we got feedback from the people. This is just with respect to Sunshine Line. So I think she meant in general, what are the preferred destinations outside of the city, right?
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, in general, within Tampa, it's downtown itself for work, and the other destinations being Airport, Brandon, and USF. And to Lakeland, there was no specific question because we didn't explore that in detail. But the intent is to connect to the hub where the Citrus Connection operates in Lakeland. So that's where we looked at as one of the connection destinations. Is that good enough?
Lisa, I think you're muted.
Sounds like we just have questions, clarification. So I guess we're just looking to see if there's any opposition or if we have general support for the Plant City plan to communicate to the board.
It sounds like we're all in agreement that this is a good idea.
It's a great plan. All right, all right.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Lisa.
All right, confirming that you're seeing the agenda. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that presentation, Sarah and Shaka. Thanks for all your work on that. The 2021 meeting calendar, Lisa, if you want to pull that up.
I will take it away. So it was attached to your packet as per usual. If you guys indicate that you don't have any major conflicts or anything to communicate about the calendar, Sharon will send you the invites to have placeholders on your calendar. And then as necessary, she'll either send you the go-to meeting links or indicate where we're physically meeting when we're able to. But luckily this year we didn't have very many oddball dates. Pretty much they mostly follow the third Wednesday at 9 a.m. like this committee loves and prefers. Once in a while there's a holiday that we have to switch to the fourth Wednesday. But again, all of those anomalies would be communicated and there's very few this year. So normally we'd say, anybody opposed? And vote on this, but I'll just leave some space and time to let you tell me if you have any issues with the calendar that was attached to the agenda.
Yeah, Lisa, I mean, the only question I had going through it was not necessarily something even we're in control of with having the virtual meetings. You know, it does seem as if Florida is going full speed ahead with requiring in-person quorums. And, you know, I think that, I mean, who knows what January 20th is going to be like, but, you know, I think it may make sense, you know, going forward, and this is probably true for all the subcommittees, just finding out how comfortable people are with going in person, because the setups, for those of you who haven't seen it on TV, you've probably seen City Council, but for example, the MPO met in person 2 weeks ago now, and used the upstairs conference room at County Center, and you know, everyone kind of sits their own table. There's partitions in front of you, so you're kind of in your own little bubble, and at least in my case, I wore my mask with the exception of when I had to talk more than one word at a time. So it is as safe as possible, it seems. But nonetheless, this is a fairly large group, and so to have an in-person quorum would, I believe, be more than what the MPO requires. So I would just say stay tuned, and then Lisa and Beth and the staff will work on going forward. But it does seem as if we have the opportunity to provide our opinion rather than taking action, and if we can go forward on that or keep that as much as possible, that may be a workaround with the action items and having an in-person quorum.
Okay. So
any other comments on that? Sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll respond to that because every time of year, this time of year, we just pick the dates we're going to meet. And like I said, when there's conflicts with other committees or holidays, I have to let you know so we can move them around and formally adopt our calendar because it gets published on our MPO calendar, our website and stuff. But yes, this year is different. So all we're asking is to hold this date for a version of a meeting. You'll see here under old and new business that I had the future meeting format update. It's pretty much what I emailed the whole committee that until such time the county can identify a room large enough for our quorum, which they do not have currently. Our quorum currently is 11. The maximum space is 9 in the Plan Hillsborough room. So, and yes, it looks like a fishbowl in there. Everybody's got their own individual partitions. We'll be testing it out. CAC will be meeting there today. So there's some acoustic issues, etc. Because Livable Roadways Committee is not a committee identified in Florida statute. Somebody's unmuted and it's a little hard to hear. Okay. We have the option of maintaining the virtual. When it comes time that we do have a location that we can accommodate, I will be polling the committee to see their preference, see if we have to meet in person and who would want to meet, and you will have images and a full description of what that would mean, because that's how CIC and the board was. We showed them what they're saying yes to if they were meeting in person, and we confirm them because we can't have action if the quorum's not physically present. But our attorneys tell us this virtual workshop works for our other committees like Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory and ours. So just stay tuned for locations. But right now, I'm just like making sure nobody had anything to communicate about the meeting calendar dates, but I didn't suspect you would. Okay, I guess we're ready for the next thing.
Thank you, Lisa, and thanks everybody. Yeah, I think a lot of us are comfortable with maintaining the existing calendar. And Kathy Coyle did ask how many is a quorum, so you heard there that 11 is the quorum. So get a full football team for our quorum. So our next presentation, the Vision Zero corridor studies, Lisa and Wade Reynolds. I will log off at some point during the presentation, but I looking at the slides, I was excited to see some of the, maybe excited is the wrong word, but some of these corridors obviously are long overdue. So again, good work being done by the MPO. So Wade, if you and Lisa want to take it away.
Okay. This time I'm first up instead of Wade. I did miss one question that got submitted about the Plant City plan in the chat box here. It says, is there a bike master plan, or what other transportation plans were considered? Given that Wade is now on the call and he is our bicycle master plan guru, would you answer that regarding Plant City before we get rolling here?
Yes, in 2016 or 2017, we did a Plant City walk bike plan, which is a master plan for pedestrian and cycling facilities in Plant City, and that is available on our website. Sorry, Lisa, I addressed the Plant
Okay.
City walk bike question.
They chose right now to start mowing. Oh, sorry. So I thought, okay, at least I'll go shut the windows so hopefully you hear them go by every time. Okay, ta-da! Vision Zero corridors for the unincorporated Hillsborough area. So just, you're a very savvy group, but we do have some audience members today, so ran back. I'll remind you that Vision Zero Action Plan has 4 tracks. This one focused on the Paint Saves Lives, which is low-cost engineering strategies that can be quickly implemented to help reduce our fatalities. We have the other tracks that help complement this effort. So again, it's a focus on the unincorporated Hillsborough top 8 corridors. The Board of County Commissioners has some funding that they identified in their budget workshops that they allocated for this effort. So we're very excited that they prioritized implementing some of the Vision Zero efforts. So it's a partnership with the Hillsborough County Public Works and Infrastructure Department. It's the first time we get to apply our speed management action plan that this committee's seen previously. I will point out that there are a lot of recommendations to help improve the safety along these corridors and reduce the fatal and serious injuries. But this is a planning study full of recommendations. Some of the recommendations will require further data and evaluation, and refinement will be completed during the implementation of them. We were back last to you in September talking about our public outreach, and thank you very much. I did see committee members did participate in the surveys and helped us distribute it to those neighborhoods affected, so thank you. We had fact sheets delivered all over, so we try to hit some of our key equity areas when we went out on the corridor. You see Wanda here, she said, you know, a bodega, and we some drive-ups and barbershops, etc. We did a huge blast through our constant contact distribution list and posted frequently in social media. This is what it looks like. You guys saw that before, but other committees didn't. Oh, that's just my, I had a mind blank here. Okay, so first up is Bruce B. Downs over in the university area. So it's from Fowler up to Bierce as 2 contextual classifications throughout the corridor. So the recommendations reflect that. Not quite 2 miles of length. This one's a more intense corridor. It's 6 lanes wide, 45 miles per hour, some significant traffic counts, several HART routes and then including the university transit option that traverses the corridor. So over 1,500 total crashes, 28 of them severe and fatal. You'll see a lot of them occurred at nighttime, so you will see a lighting recommendation as one of the response. And then we have a breakdown of how many were in our vulnerable users. These are the locations, so not surprisingly, a lot at Fowler Avenue. These are to indicate some special complementary projects outside of the scope of this that are going on that are good news to add to the safety of the recommendations of this report. And then you can see like we're still trending not in a great direction for our bicycle pedestrian crashes. So here's those projects. So at Bruce B. Downs and Campus Hill, they're adding a new traffic signal, also at Richard Silver Way. So again, it's an intense, dense residential area, lots of students traveling back and forth, not a lot of gray areas for them to have controlled crossings. So these 2 new signals will be amazing. Also, as part of the resurfacing, they're widening the sidewalk along this segment from Holly to Pine and adding physically buffered bike lanes on both sides. So that's a really cool compliment. So some other things for ours. So the public outreach, what did they say? It said people are aggressively driving. Lots of turns from Bruceby Downs onto the side streets we're concerned. People driving too fast, that's the highest #1 concern, and walking and biking across the boulevard. Like I mentioned, not surprising that that needs to get addressed. So some corridor-wide recommendations. Speed management, definitely, it would be great to target a lower speed along there. And then north, like I said, there's a different context to the north. So a 40 mile per hour would be a little more applicable there. A lot of ADA issues with the elderly sidewalks and ramps and things along there needs to get brought up to the code and help improve that access. Some signing and pavement markings, definitely, alert, hey, you're supposed to stop, not keep going. The green pavement markings at the conflict areas would help with that. And then this roadway has swales and some standing water issues. So recommending that improvement, because again, it's not great to cruise through the puddles. Whoopsie. And lighting, as I mentioned earlier, is an important thing. And then some signalized intersections with the improving the already existing intersection signals with some leading pedestrian intervals and the push buttons, so they're not just sitting there forever and tempted to like run across. At Beers, we have channelized fast turning movements, so some improvement to the geometry there would help some safety. A new pedestrian crossing was seen as a potential at this location. Definitely some special emphasis crosswalk because some of the situations don't have that or don't have all legs of them having that present. A potential for a bulb out considered on Fletcher, and drainage again. And then Fowler, we're coordinating with the Department of Transportation. Alex Henry's on the call. He helped provide DOT's improving a lot of things at that intersection. So we complemented and continued that effort heading north. Okay, now I'm transitioning to Fletcher Avenue, and the crash locations were Nebraska, Florida, North Boulevard, and Rome. They had less crashes, 900, but a lot of severe ones and a lot of bike ped crashes. The types are the rear ending and angling, and they just flip-flop in ranking here between the severe and the total. So that's the type we're addressing in the recommendations along Fletcher, which is a different characteristic roadway. It's 4 lanes with the center lane being that dual turn lane. It's a longer corridor, 2.5 miles. This posted speed also 45 and pretty generous traffic counts there. So let's see, the survey results said, this is the breakdown of the type of people. Again, it's challenging during COVID to get high participation because we can go out and meet in person. But what we did here is that it's high volume, high speed, and then the access is difficult. So getting to on and off and to and from everything. So the corridor-wide, again, let's address the speed. It's a top concern of the community. So let's look at a different target speed and start implementing some of those things. The signal timing and phasing would help a lot with that, including, improving the signals to add the flashing yellow. You can see here, roadway lighting would help with it. I even showed an example that this is what we mean by the reflective signal backplates and bringing those up to the current recommendations, best practices, pavement markings, maintenance, and raised medians. So raised medians, I'm just going to show you one example, but like since it has that kind of suicide lane, the dual turn lanes in the center at key locations where we had crash problems, we're adding to a little bit of raised median in there, enhancing the pedestrian crossings. There's a lot of gap between them. So, and then we think that with the appropriate study that a potential new signal could be implemented at OLA. And then reduced radii helps again with these. See, we have very generous, they're designed for the car instead of the people. All right, Lynn Turner Road from Ehrlich to Gunn Highway. So top crashes were at Ehrlich and at Gunn, and then Laguna Woods Court. Same type of crash, the rear end and angle. Same thing, just in different order. So 17 severe. This one has the same posted speed. This one's a smaller, it's 2 lanes and a smaller traffic volume. So it's more of a residential, connection from these 2 areas. And you even see that we have some green space and stuff in between. So reflecting that different context in our recommendations. So what this community said is high speeds, unsafe turning movements, and poor lining. Those were their top issues. So we're addressing the speed, adding some speed management, definitely the road lighting, side street crosswalks, because the side streets where some of the issues were, and then wider side. This is a pretty small sidewalk, and so giving them a little more space. Enhancing the pedestrian crossings, a gateway feature at Gunn might be nice because they have this stormwater thing going on here and really fast turns and stuff. So, and then raised medians at key locations, especially in and around the school that's located along this corridor. And I didn't say at the beginning, but it's probably evident by now that the reports are very thorough and very complete, and we're just hitting the highlights because we have 8 of them to cover with you, but they're all in the packet and on the website if you'd like to see each location and get some more details. Last one for me, and then I'll turn it over to Wade, is Sheldon Road. So let's see, on here, a lot of the crashes are occurring at the evening. The majority of them were mid-block and side streets. 78% of them, a very high percent of the fatal ones, were from the residential side streets. 64% of them were the bicycle and pedestrian crashes were actually in legal crosswalks. So, and it's not surprising that we have a lot of these side street issues because there are a lot of side streets along this 2-mile corridor. We have 28 intersections and 24 bus stops. So it's got a different context than some of the others. All right. So what did the people say? Well, 44% of them identified speeding. This is a straight road, and they're flying down it, and that's what the people said. And then we asked them, do you feel safe along this corridor? And you might guess with the narrow bike lanes that would be low, but even the drivers only gave it a 3-star out of 5. So we got a perception of unsafeness on this corridor. Okay, again, corridor-wide systematic, improve the visibility of crossings. You can see the lighting, the curb radius reductions, seeing if we can eke out a little wider bike lane by reducing the traffic lanes to 10 because they're already 11. Adding the green paint at the conflict areas for the bike lane, so it's obvious that it is not just the shoulder there. And a lot of ADA issues to bring up the ramps and the sidewalk maintenance up to meet that. Again, those 24 bus stops are just a lot of times maybe a bench or a sign, so some enhancements would be lovely. And this could all help with our speed limit reduction. Okay, and then in this one, we kind of broke down the initial countermeasures into some categories. So these ones are identified for safe people. Then we have them broken down for the safe streets and then safe operations. So some of the things like signal timing and the lead pedestrian intervals and stuff, these are like, operation enhancements, and then the design of the road, and then here the help on the people get around with the signage, etc. So Well, hit a couple of them. This corridor, again, waters down to Hillsborough. If you're familiar with the area, this is a Publix, 7-Eleven, and then a big shopping center. And this is Old Memorial. And again, this goes at a curve. This comes in at a weird angle. So to help improve the safety here, we have redesigned the median so that people aren't just like trying to like, oh, let me just illegally go around and cut through, or let me come over here and just cut through this 7-Eleven and get across. So some median design all along the corridor. They have some lovely street trees, but it's sparse. Since there is a very generous median on this corridor, adding some landscaping and a little more verticality along the whole thing would help calm things down. Signage. This one happens to have the Upper Tampa Bay Trail crossing. We did observe when we were out there that it's the timing is completely off. So the drivers get frustrated sitting here as if it's a 4 intersection signal instead of just a quick, get across the street from the trail usage. So improving that. Plus, I live in this area and I was not super aware of this traffic crossing because it's not signed really well. Enhancing that it's there and that it's a connection up to the Upper Tampa Bay Trail would be and a modification that help the community as well as those using this area and the drivers. So that's one theme. Then we have 2 private schools. So it's designed for the one, but we recognize that the one across the street is not just a daycare, it's a full-on school. So designing this to meet the new Florida statutes and bring the school zone up to code is one step. And then you can see here these, there's a lovely median, but it's not helping all of these pedestrians get across the corridor. Like again, 28 locations, and they're having to run. If they need refuge, there's not really a refuge. So extending it so that there actually is one. There's a couple of mid-block pedestrian crossings because, again, along the whole corridor, there were only 4 signalized crossings before our recommendations. So 2 new signals would also help with that besides those mid-block pedestrian crossings. One here at Crown and one at Woodlake. And again, Woodlake's a site of one of the higher crash fatalities. And so adding the signal and then adding the crosswalks would do a lot to help safety. And then at Waters and Sheldon, kind of a big nightmare. We have it's south on my slide, but it's actually to the east is a senior zone along Waters. There's a lot of elderly, and this is a big community of concern area. They're all coming over here to use this Fresco Latin supermarket and then Dunkin' Donuts. While we were out there, we saw a couple elderly gentlemen on their scooters attempting to get over here, and and again, the conditions are tight and not ADA compliant, and they have to go up this ramp. But anyway, so improving that whole intersection. And you can see the bike lanes and all that stuff in the signage would enhance the corridor. But we have 4 more, so I won't belabor, and I'll turn it over to Wade. So let me make him the presenter. There's the button.
Right, there we go. Oops, here, let me get that over there and see if that'll work.
I'm seeing it, Wade, so you're good to go.
Great, thank you. I was hoping that it would do the other screen, but that's always a challenge sometimes. Anyway, I hope you all can all see this. Starting with 78th Street, this was the second highest crash corridor for pedestrians and cyclists that we looked at. And more than half of those were nighttime crashes. The 2 main crash types in this segment of 78, which is a 4-lane section with a center turn lane, so really 5-lane, no bike facilities, and then sidewalks on each side. Mostly it was left turn movement crashes that were responsible for a lot of the crashes there. Excuse me, there we go. So some of the hotspots and countermeasures, transit stops were a major issue. So looking at some pedestrian refuge islands, some on-street and in-street lighting. You may have seen on crosswalks the in-street bulbs, as well as enforcement and those hardscape medians are some of the considerations here. So just to use one of the examples, Palm River Road, the intersection at Palm River Road was one of the major crash locations, accounting for about a quarter of crashes on this corridor. So again, a lot of those were left turn related and distraction related. So looking to evaluate the sight distance at all of those intersections, again, improving the intersection geometry and street lighting are major considerations here. Looking just at the entire corridor, some of the short-term recommendations involve reducing the speed from 45 miles per hour to 35. To do that, to accomplish that, we would be looking to narrow the lanes from 12 feet to 11 feet, provide an outside buffer, install raised landscape islands and crosswalks. And as you can see in this picture, relocating those bus stops in a couple of locations to allow them to be right by those proposed mid-block crossings so that people will use those instead of just running across the street. In terms of some slightly longer term, middle term recommendations, the proposal is to reconstruct and widen the sidewalks and adjusting the slopes along the corridor for ADA and enhancing the street lighting throughout the corridor. Just a couple of these examples. These are both from Jacksonville, but this is what either those mid-block crossings or those center median treatments can look like, along with a slightly increased outside buffer on the roadway. Moving on to, this says Gibsonton Road, but it is Gibsonton Drive, which turns into Boyett Road. This is a 4 and 6 lane high-speed facility. It handles a high volume of traffic, and you'll hear this a lot throughout these corridors. A lot of left turn and rear end movements are some of the major crash types that we're trying to prevent. So looking at Gibsonton Road, some of the short-term recommendations: reducing the speed from 45 to 40, accomplishing that through narrowing the travel lanes as well as some other treatments. Providing crosswalks at all the intersection approaches, filling in sidewalk gaps, extending median separators at intersections in the cases where feasible, and then limiting some of these all-way movements. As you can see in the graphic on the right, that would require left turn movements on the main through area on Gibsonton Drive, and not allow all of the movements from the side streets. So if somebody was trying to make a left from Oak Ridge Avenue, they would have to actually make a right and go up to an intersection in this case. So there are certainly some things to balance there, but these are important safety treatments, and trying to make an uncontrolled left turn across 4 to 6 lanes of traffic moving 45 or more miles an hour is somewhat inherently dangerous. Looking at the typical sections here, the existing is on the top. The interim proposed is on the bottom. You can see those enhanced bicycle and pedestrian facilities on the south side of the corridor proposed, as well as the reduced lane widths and enhanced buffers on this section. So there is a proposal from 301 to I-75 to widen from 6 lanes. That is in the long-range plan as well. So how do we accomplish that? So starting at US 301, this is the eastern side of US 301 in this picture. There are major backups for traffic moving westbound. So this proposes adding an additional southbound left turn lane, just through some reorientation of the travel lanes here. So looking at that long-term widening situation, you can again see what that would look like with the enhanced sidewalk facilities and bike facilities, as well as buffer reduced lane widths to reduce some of those speeds. So moving on to Mango Road, these are some of the existing conditions on Mango Road. You can see a lot of missing sidewalks, a lot of drainage facility issues, but people are using this both as a major north-south cut through from MLK to Hillsborough and I-4, as well as you have a number of people using it just to do their daily routines. There's a Walmart at the southern end of this, which we heard a little bit about in the Plant City Transit Plan. Looking at the crashes, we did have, you know, still a high percentage of bike and pedestrian crashes, but rear end crashes were a high percentage here. And a lot of that is because at these intersections that we'll get to, people are trying to make their turns into their in or out of their neighborhoods, and you have some issues there. So this is a program capital improvement roundabout at Old Hillsborough Road and Mango Road. This is a great example of something that the county's already working on to improve the safety in the area. And we totally agree with this as an improvement, as well as adding some speed feedback signs due to the grade change. There actually is quite a good bit of hill and grade out here. So then looking at some of the other issues, just continued maintenance on these, updating the pavement markings, drainage improvements, because a lot of what happens on the roadway shoulder here is that sand from the drainage areas runs into that and the sidewalks and makes it difficult. Additionally, traffic calming, as well as lighting and other pedestrian improvements, which I'll get to now. So two of the main gaps on Mango Road, you can see them labeled 1 and 2 on the right side. You can see by the pattern on the shoulder there that people are using these, people are moving up and down them, or people are crossing in unsafe locations to get to the complete sidewalk on the other side. So those are pretty important recommendations. Just a couple of notes about the intersection improvements noted throughout the corridor. These are some of the existing intersections. This is an example of Clay Pit Road, for example, but generally pretty consistent throughout. Leading pedestrian intervals are proposed, as well as signal backplates to make those easier to see for drivers, as well as curb and gutter, adding sidewalks, and repainting the crosswalks at all of those locations. So just a couple of other improvements, talking about curb and gutter, adding left turn lanes where feasible into the neighborhoods, which will eliminate some of those rear end crashes and some of the general conflicts throughout the corridor. And then at the southern end of the corridor, there are 2 entrances to the Walmart. What you see here is the southernmost entrance. MLK is immediately to the south. This proposal is to limit the free turning movements in and out of that southern driveway to the Walmart. There are some other issues that need to be evaluated with this. There are some single family homes down to the left there that would be blocked from making a left turn in. But as you can see where that turn lane is to go on to Martin Luther King, that's a pretty serious intersection to even be making that movement in. So, and you can see from the dirt on the, or from the oil or whatever on the roadway that this is a pretty frequently made turning movement. This is the northern movement, or the northern entrance to that Walmart. So you still would be able to make a left turn into that Walmart without being blocked. But a southbound left turn lane is proposed there, as well as high emphasis crosswalk markings and continuing that sidewalk to the north. So lastly, moving on to 15th Street, this was the highest level of pedestrian fatalities and severe crashes of any of these 8 corridors we looked at. A lot of multifamily residential. It's also the highest ADA transit route for HART. Again, some of the existing conditions, this is pretty similar to what we saw on Mango Road, sidewalk gaps, some other issues. A lot of people who are walking and riding in the streets where those facilities don't exist. So again, rear end angle and left turn crashes are a big part of this, and many of those safety concerns were noted as a need to widen the sidewalks and slow down the vehicles, and the lack of marked crosswalks for pedestrians and lack of sidewalks were major noted concerns. So the county is currently doing some great improvements out there. They've really taken the initiative on this to do some traffic calming, raised crosswalks, rapid flashing beacons, as well as filling in some of those sidewalk gaps. And really, they have looked to do these near the transit stops where people are crossing. This is just a section from the plans of that project. Really can't say enough good things about those ongoing improvements. Just to show you some of the longer term improvements that we discussed for this corridor, here is one with wider sidewalks and sharrows that could fit basically within the existing pavement. There might be some utility issues within those buffers that we're still working through. And then another option that would require a little bit greater pavement width with buffered bike lanes and again, the sidewalks and landscaping. So that concludes the presentation. The full reports are available at the link in your agenda, and we are asking that you forward this with any comments you may have to the MPO board for approval. So thank you, and happy to take any comments or questions you might have.
Thank you, Wade. Do we have any discussion or questions from the group?
I do see some in the chat. Would you like me to address those first?
Sure.
Okay. Our audience member, Abigail Flores, said, was realignment of skewed intersections considered for any of the intersections? I didn't have any, but Wade, do you have any offset intersections?
Palm River Road and 15th, if I will get back to that, is one that we did look at that a little bit for longer term improvements. The geometry of that intersection is very difficult, and it creates a lot of excuse me, I'm having a little trouble getting to it. It does create a lot of issues, and there are where we do have those offset intersections, which is only a couple of locations, at least in signalized intersections. That has been a consideration, trying to smooth those out and make the crossings easier where we can.
Okay, and Justin says, can we have more of the presentations in the packets? I will confess that this one is huge and voluminous. So in the agenda item at the bottom, I had linked to the project page, and it probably could have been more apparent, but on each corridor, we have the presentation, the full report, the fact sheets, and all the background stuff, because it's just, our packet would have crashed when we sent it out. So, but yeah, keep that in mind for some of the others. We do like Plant Cities. It was a link to the PowerPoint, so I'll try to do better.
Yeah,
with
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry about that. I missed the link. I was scrolling through the agenda and only saw Plant City, and then I went back and I saw it. So sorry about that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say a few things from the transit side. 78th Street, I think Wade and I have talked a little bit about that, so we'll keep on the same page there. Bruce B. Downs, that overlaps with our BRT study, so these improvements are going to be in advance of that. So whatever we end up doing, if we end up doing our BRT project, then we'll have to, make sure that those improvements stick around. And then I just wanted to let people know, Sheldon Road between Hillsborough to Waters, we are currently consolidating some bus stops on Route 34, which runs from Net Park on 56th Street, all the way down Hillsborough to Sheldon and to the Northwest Transfer Center. So we are currently in the process of doing our internal review, and then we'll go out to the public and do some outreach for those stops after we look at a little more wheelchair data and stuff like that. But we're really, really trying to get rid of some of those mid-block crossings. For the good and the bad of our pedestrian and bike fatality record has made a lot more crossings on Hillsborough in the last few years. made our stop consolidation a little easier and a little more justifiable when we have more crossings at where our bus stops are. And it also is helping some operational stuff. So I'll be reviewing that in a little more detail on Sheldon Road to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with everything that you're trying to move forward with there. So I don't want to go ahead and remove some stops in close proximity to a crosswalk you're going to do, but usually the ridership's driving your decision making, so it's very likely that we'll be pretty consistent there. So I just wanted to mention that.
And vice versa. And if, I mean, the report's posted with a lot more detail than we're covering today, but if you want any of our crash data and things that went into the development of the report, we'll be glad to share that, you know, the background and observations. Matt Lewis, our member here, has posted about the context classification. I'd shown some of them. We used FDOT's context classification and CNU/ITE's classification because CNU and ITE are referenced in our speed action plan. We are aware that Hillsborough County is developing their own context classification, which we suspected would mirror that pretty closely for these corridors, but that's not formally adopted yet, so it wasn't the official resource. But I think they're probably pretty consistent and can be adjusted as needed in implementation. Was there anything else, Matt Lewis? Because you said you had a few things in the chat.
Yeah, actually, I did go through it as I was reading it. It was a lot to take in. Lisa and Wade, that was a massive undertaking on your part. Good job. And I did take a look at, you know, the context class that we're developing at the same time as you're working on this thing, and it looks like they do mirror pretty well. So good job there. But from what I understand, this is a work in progress. There's still some forming of these recommendations that's going on. Is that right?
We did receive comments from your county department late yesterday, so we'll have to adjust and respond to those comments. But yeah, the report's complete other than getting feedback and then adjusting it for its final.
Okay.
It'll get finalized
that's
after the board adopts it.
Yeah, there were a few things that I cheated and went through the comments that some of my colleagues put together, and relevant to this committee was that 15th Street Sharrows, we're concerned that the volume there might be a little high for the sharing of bike and automobile traffic. It's something worth looking into.
Yes, we did note that, and we're working with the consultant on that as one of the comments. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And then for the Bruce B. Downs and the 15th Street did a pretty good job of this, but the Bruce B. Downs, we did a plat study, a land use and transportation study on 131st Street. And there are some recommendations in there that might touch Bruce B. Downs. So it's worth kind of reviewing to see if there's some continuation of that study into Bruce B. Downs that's worthwhile.
Thank you for bringing that up, Matt, because we ongoingly requested all studies from the county to fold into that, and we've been catching some along the way and learning of new ones. So that one was just discovered yesterday. So if you would provide us a copy or a link, then we can consider those and make some tweaks. But we weren't made aware of it until yesterday.
All right, we'll get that to you then. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Because yes, we definitely want to coordinate land use and transportation. So that's what PLAT stands for. And then I missed one of Abigail's questions in the questions area, and it says, what strategies to decrease traffic volumes were considered? This was a targeted project at the safety along these corridors. Definitely the MPO in general has lots of strategies to decrease volumes, but that's like the bigger umbrella. So I won't go into all of those now, but we were targeting the existing volumes and trying to make it safer for those that are using the road in all modes. So, okay.
Is that everything for the questions in chat, I believe?
Also, again, this would have been an action item to formally acknowledge that you would like us to forward it to the MPO. Any other things to communicate in the chair report regarding support or non-support of moving forward?
Is our opportunity for input. So anyone else?
Motion to approve the reports to send to the MPO. Justin Willis.
Okay, well, I think since we're kind of non-voting, I think we just kind of say that we're in agreement, I guess, and that there's no additional comments unless we add Max that Matt had mentioned.
Yeah, looked like clarifications, and refinement to respond to Public Works comments. But okay. So nobody's opposed to supporting it as Justin's proposed. So hearing silence, I'm going to say, okay, Livable was generally supportive. All right.
Okay.
Now,
I think, I guess that concludes. And I wanted to say before Wade leaves, congratulations again on the new family member.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a few of those in the chat too. So
try to get some sleep.
got to promote our growth management. All right.
So next we've got old business, but I think we covered all that. Didn't we cover both items?
Well, we didn't dialogue about this item B. For the consultants that are listening, thank you so much for being on the call and texting me back with answers, but you can tune out now if you want. And we'll see you at the next meeting. Let's see. Okay, future meeting format, cover that pretty thoroughly. We're going to make it super safe, let you know what the super safe measures are, and then poll and get clear which the 11 will be attending. On the proposal by Michael Marino to change the committee chair to just be a member of Livable Roadways versus an MPO board member. I did discuss his proposals with our executive director, Beth Alden. We didn't see any major cons in continuing as an MPO board member on there. They are busy people and sometimes have tough time attending all of our meetings, like Trent Green was a busy professor. But since we have very sturdy vice chair and officer at large positions to pick up the reins, we were just like, don't know that it's a big problem. So that's our perspective. If anybody has others, I'll give you a moment to say that. Then on this adding additional members, I didn't see that he'd said to add a senior, but he'd mentioned school representative, and I pointed out that we have school district staff members are official members and attend the technical advisory committee with all our other agency partners. So we coordinate school there. We have a school board member is, and I forget the title, one of the members of the planning commission. So they attend all the planning commission meetings. So we're coordinating school land use issues, et cetera, at that level. I have added school transportation coordination as an ongoing update to our agenda. But if you so desire to formally have a school representative on the Livable Roadways as a defined member to always recruit and fill, we were thinking maybe the missing perspective would be a parent related or community member. So a PTA officer might be somebody we would target first, but allow any parent involved in schools be the alternate and or participate if we were going to start defining that position as an additional position. Right now, Emily Hinsdale serves as the Livable Communities Advocate position. So she's not formally at schools, nor am I, but since I'm school transportation Liaison, you know, we coordinated with this committee. We were seen as the committee to continue the efforts of the school transportation working group when it retired. So that's my 2 cents or several cents. So if anybody's got any opinions to help guide when we can take the next steps, let me know. This is the time to discuss it.
Any input?
This is
Anybody?
Emily Hinsdale. I'd like to weigh in. I agree with Lisa's suggestion, possibly including a PTA representative. I find that the perspective that is missing from a lot of the meetings is not what the school thinks is the good choice, but what the child thinks is the good choice. Frequently what I hear is the children aren't following directions, and I think it'd be useful to have somebody looking at why are the children walking here, why are the children biking here. The kids flow like water. They'll go wherever the easiest path is, and us telling them that they are doing the wrong thing and being naughty by not following pedestrian rules is not an effective way to approach pedestrian safety around school zones. So I think having a PTA voice or another parent voice as part of this group would be very useful. School transportation is a major aspect of any kind of livable roadways community. So I'd love to add some more voices on that line.
And to build on Emily's statement there, I just think it's not only children that flow like water, it's usually people just in general. So, you know, I think that has always been a concern of mine for years in that our transportation has historically wanted to treat people, human beings, as cars and create all these rules. But humans, while they're walking, typically will try to take the easiest route, whether it's legal or not. So that's just my 2 cents on that. But
Okay.
How does the group feel about them pursuing this edition? Any issues with it, or? Oh, okay. I'll take the silence, Lisa, as we're
Well, we have pro and con put on the table. So I guess part of the con is like we add members, we increase our quorum requirements. We add members, we have to fill those positions and have the regular attendance, which again is not a problem, especially, like Emily could even switch over to that role if she chose to with action from the committee. So I just wanted to check, double check that everybody's comfortable with the idea.
Hey, Lisa, this is Matt. Yeah, I agree. You do add quorum requirements and does have attendance issues, but I think it's a good representation for the committee to have that interest specifically talked about.
Okay, great. I think it will enhance our committee too, but I have to play neutral in Switzerland. So, okay. So
hey,
I do realize,
Lisa?
So, go ahead.
This is Kathy. I was wondering how many of us are actually on our kids' PTOs?
Any PTA members?
I am personally.
Okay.
So I didn't know if we already, how many of us actually are. Just to kind of poll the group, just to see. Because they are fairly individualized depending on where you are and what school, public, private, charter. But that's my 2 cents. I think it's a great idea though.
Okay. Well, when we do get the applications in, I just thought rather than just, because if you just say, oh, we need a neighborhood representative, who do we determine is representing the neighborhood? So when this was broached as a topic, I thought, oh, well, how do we determine who represents the schools from this perspective? So using the PTA, PSTA as a resource to recruit from was seen as an option. but I don't want us to limit it to that, because if we have a really dedicated parent that wants to come and is attending, I don't want to have to force that they're an officer at the PTA and stuff. So, but when you get all the applications in, you guys get to choose who your member is when we get to that stage. So I care and love my kid and participate in school activities, but I'm not a PTA member. So, you know, booster club maybe, but not that. So, okay. So recognizing that it's COVID and we're having virtual workshops, I do realize as we're having this conversation that when we change our membership, it takes action by the committee first to make sure it's supported. Then I have to draft the bylaws edits and you act on that. And then the board has to have a first reading and a second reading of the bylaw changes to then formally get this accomplished. So it looks like we've got support and we can start thinking about how to make it work. But it may have to be delayed a bit because until we're meeting in person, because I technically can't say, oh, the Livable Roadways supports these bylaw changes officially due to sunshine requirements. So I'm glad we had the dialogue and got consensus, it sounds like. So, and we'll be revisiting it when it becomes formal. It just, I have to kick it down the road a couple of months until we're got a room to meet in. All right, yeah, I think that's, and then regarding school transportation coordination, which is missing its letter C there, I don't have any new updates except that they swore in new school board members yesterday. They did not appoint who represents them on the MPO. They'll be doing that predictably at their December meeting, so we'll have a little gap there. The Board of County Commissioners, I told you last month, did not want to pick who was on the school siting task force until after the election, given they swore in their members yesterday as well. I'm hoping that that'll get on their agenda and that effort will get moving. But I have a little tickler where I'm trying to track that and get actually the school district staff to come tell you about that process when there's actually a task force to talk about. That's it for me.
Okay, does anyone else have any new business to discuss? If not, I guess we're ready to adjourn.
Yes, December, right now it looks like December, especially because we meet a little earlier, will be a virtual workshop. So okay. Hang on to your hat.
Well, everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you all next month.
Yeah, I'm grateful for all of you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanksgiving. Bye.